There she goes. Great. Hi, Ben. Hi, Southern Nevada Writing Project. I think we should start by those of us who are on camera, not in the room, introducing ourselves so you know who we are, and then I think Joe will lead us to hear some about your day. So, my name is Tanya Baker. I'm the Director of National Programs at the National Writing Project. I'm calling in from my office in Berkeley, California, and I am excited to hear all about what you've been doing today. I've been doing this since they started on the East Coast this morning. I got here at 6:30 this morning. So I did, if you look at the earlier Hangouts, I did look a little fresher then, but it's been such an exciting day to talk to teachers all around the country all day, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Sarah?
My name is Sarah Woodard, and I am coming to you from Denver, Colorado. I am a co-director of our Denver Writing Project site here in the city, and I also teach high school English language arts. I spent many years teaching middle school, and now I'm returned to high school after starting there at the beginning of my career as well, and I'm teaching at a very highly impacted high school that's been very low achieving, and we are working on turning the school around. So that's what I do.
And Joe?
Hi, I'm Joe Bellacero. I'm talking to you from New York. I could go over to the window and show you our nice snow outside.
Wow. Real treat. We don't see that often.
Yes, well, it was as heavy as could be. I'm a former associate director of New York City Writing Project and a long-time teacher consultant with them in my 42nd year of teaching. And no, that's enough. I'm glad to meet you.
Glad to meet you too. Well, I already know you, but good to see you again.
All of them.
So, Joe, do you want to jump right in and see if we can find out about them and what they've been doing today?
Right. Well, that's the good question to ask first. What have you been doing today?
Well, I am going to defer to someone else here. We've had a wonderful day, but would anyone like to kind of talk about what we've done today? I'm putting you all on the spot.
I think one of the main
Why don't you come up here, Tobin?
Do I really have to?
Yeah, why don't you come up here? Or I have to repeat everything back verbatim to them. Tobin is going to come and share a little bit.
Hello.
It's like being in grammar school and having to stand up before you speak.
Yeah.
Hi, Tobin. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I think what's sticking out to me is that one of the main components we've looked at is using a template format to reinvigorize our approach towards assignment creation. And it's, in my mind, it's reminding me of some very basic things that I think most good teachers know, but perhaps sometimes leave out. And so the template that Ben has presented us with and the protocols he took us through have kind of reminded me of some of those things that I need to build back into my assessments so that they are productive and meaningful and accomplish my goals.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Was there any reluctance about the idea that they were templates and that it seemed to be all kind of prepackaged?
Anyone can answer these questions. Certainly, Tobin wants to stay up there. He can, but I saw a couple people. Do you want to say something?
I have an opinion about it.
Oh, do you want to
Okay.
I don't like templates all that much. I find that the what is it, 10 or 12? The 10 or 12 templates that we were presented with, they're a little bit limiting, but I understand the purpose of a template.
Okay.
I think that's the important part. Is that for me, a template reminds me of some very basic elements that should be there, and then I can kind of forget the template or move the template aside because I've been reminded, and I can build off of that template a good, powerful assignment or prompt. But yeah, the reluctance of following strictly a template system Yeah, it's pretty high. I don't like templates all that much. That's just me.
Right. So what are some of the exciting things that have been going on?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can come and talk. Come and talk to us.
What? Say what you want.
I was also reluctant about the templates, and I actually tweeted like, oh, we'll see how this works out. But I think in my mind I was kind of equating it to how in my early years of teaching I would use question stems when trying to form my questions with like blooms so I could get high quality questions in there. So if I think of it like those question stems, it's not as simplified, I think, and it kind of keeps us on the right track. So that's kind of how I've equated it.
And does it come clear what the structure of those templates is? It seems to me that understanding the underlying structure is what we really want to get at.
I think it's useful to have that structure and to have the template so we can kind of get used to this is how we should word it. If you use these kind of words here, if you use this kind of format here, it becomes more natural. Then we can take the training wheels off. We won't need the paper or the template so much anymore maybe in the future.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I can move to my other question, which was what if anything, has been exciting for you today? Any of you? All of you?
Working with other teachers.
Someone says working with other teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going to a bunch of onboarding classes, and most of the onboarding classes are filled with teachers who are in the same boat as me. It's my first contracted year, and we're also trying to understand what's going on. But it's nice being here because there's many teachers here who have great experience. There's professors here. They're 9th grade, 10th grade, English teachers, 12th grade, AP. So it's nice to have that variety of input where I'm not just like one of the many new teachers who's kind of like, so do you have anything to help me with this? Or I'm in the same boat, but everyone here has such great ideas, and hearing how they come to terms with what they're doing is awesome. Bouncing ideas off each other.
Were you able to catch most of that?
I think so, yes.
Awesome. Good. Yay, Barbara.
Were there any particular structures that helped to facilitate this discussion and interaction?
The ones that we're reading, the LDC, and just sort of everything we've been presented with seems like a pretty good structure that has facilitated what we're experiencing and made it good, made it well.
So that was the LDC, is a good structure in general. Anyone else?
And what, if anything, have you been creating or doing for yourselves?
They were so chatty till we started hanging out on Google, and then everybody got shy. So, does anybody want to talk about what you've been creating?
This assignment guide, is this part of the LDC, or is this yours, or?
So Tobin's asking about the assignment planning guide that was a part of.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Was that a part of the LDC, or is that something that was created as a planning tool to help with our work?
Are you going to take that?
It was created as a planning tool from the book Assignments Matter by Eleanor Doherty. And so it's she's one of the authors of the LDC templates that you're using today. And so that template was modeled after work in her book.
Cool. Well, I found this very useful. And I took an old prompt that I had given students already and revised it based on the template system, but following this this guide. And my fear was that using these templates would take a long time, but it didn't take very much time at all to get to a much better version of my assignment.
That's really encouraging, and I would say to you, Tobin, that we've been talking to teachers, as I said, all around the country all day, and actually that tool has come up a lot, so that's really helpful corroborating feedback. A lot of people are saying the same thing, that particularly has been really helpful. So thanks for letting us know, and know that you got a whole community of people all around the country using it too. So might share your stories about it.
Awesome.
So, thinking forward to Monday, what do you think you're going to bring directly back into your classrooms from today?
Today, we use Springboard
Uh-huh.
in order to really to get the kids to understand the task that they have to do in Springboard. Using this template helped me figure out where the Springboard needs more structure, where it's missing part of it, that this will help me really explain the assignment a little bit better to them. The templates are more explicit in what they need, and it's a good way to complement and explain the assignment in a different way.
Nice.
That is nice.
That's great.
And we had a couple teachers, and maybe we'll talk about this later, but a couple teachers looked at writing tasks that were written by other people, whether it was Springboard or whether it was included with part of a DBQ set, and it was really powerful to see how with the structure of the template task, they were able to maintain a lot of the integrity of those lessons, but they were able to identify ways to increase the rigor and be much more specific about the product. So some of them had really good activities that led through a lot of the different standards, but then at the end, the prompt really wasn't elevating the students to the level of rigor that they should have been given the work that they had done with those assignments. So it was really cool. That was a concern we had because we have a lot of schools that use Springboard and other types of different programs here in Las Vegas, and so it was good to see that the teachers interacted in a positive manner with the Assignment Matters template tasks.
That's nice. We also have heard about people today across several places, people coming, doing a revision or a rethinking of DBQs in a number of ways. And another way that other teachers, I think in Kentucky, actually I think it was Maggie on our leadership team, was saying that in her school they've been using the template tasks to rewrite DBQs from the AP History course for students who are not in AP History, and that the template task sort of provides, I think, much in a way that I'm sorry, I don't know your name, the guy who's just started us on this conversation about Springboard, that provide some structure and support that allow students who don't see themselves as highly academic historians or history students suddenly see they're doing the same work as some of their colleagues in AP History, and that's been a real great benefit of the tools too.
I'm a little curious to know if there was anything in this program and in meeting these new things that you found reassuring, that when you looked at some of these tools that you thought, oh good, I'm already doing this, or I've been on target.
A lot of my students struggle with academic vocabulary, as in compare, contrast, or define, or just like terms like that, where they'll read a cold read and they'll have your director tell them what to do, and they don't understand those words like analyze sometimes. And so because of that, I like to use those words in my actual prompts. And I like how he went over that you shouldn't try to change the verbiage too much, because if you do, it takes away from the verbiage that's connecting to the Common Core 6 standards. And it's reassuring that maybe other teachers are also trying to make sure their kids can build up their academic vocabulary too, and not just,
Thank you. Other thoughts? No?
Well, I think just this, if you're asking for reassuring, I feel like I'm doing much of what this is asking a good teacher to do already. And so, I mean, it's reassuring just in that way that many of the assignments and the prompts I put before the students are following at least some aspects of this, if not all the aspects that we would want. So that's reassuring. I'm not totally leading my students down into a dark alley with no flashlight.
That's what we wanted to hear. So,
yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's been a shared reflection today, that the pieces we've brought, that we've implemented, we're implemented to some success, but what we're encouraged and excited by is how we're taking what we're doing, and it's not sort of pulling the foundation out from under it, but it's saying, let's strengthen the foundation so that the building our students put on top of it is much stronger, much more vast and thorough and impressive.
do you feel that you'll be bringing some of this then back to your colleagues? I realize that's a yes or no question.
I'll answer that question. We had somebody who had to cut out at lunch, but a question she had immediately was just, how can I take these things and share it with my faculty, with my department during a staff development day? And so there was an immediate excitement, not just to share the product, the template task that she'd created today, but to share these ideas, to go through the thinking model we've given today, the questions we've asked, the experiences, and to adapt those for her colleagues who weren't here today. Because that was one of the things she explained. She really tried to get some colleagues here, but they weren't able to make it, and she just wanted to know what partnerships can we offer her, and obviously we're going to offer her some, but that was exciting to see that there was more of a, I'm not just going to take what I made, but I'm going to take what I learned back to my site. Does anyone else want to answer that?
I think that, in my experience, I work at a middle school that has an international baccalaureate middle years program, and trying to always implement that along with Common Core, it's always kind of challenging to get things to fit. And I am pleased that we're doing text-based things and we're including writing, all that dovetails together. And I think it will be easy for me to take this back to my colleagues as we all work together to make project-based learning and tasks more valuable and actually demonstrate what we wanted them to get out of something. So I think it should be a handy tool that it would be easy to show other people, hey, I think you can take, or we can take our lessons to another level, or we can firm it up a little bit so it makes more sense. I love how it's very user-friendly. Just 2 hours, we get it.
That's nice. And I haven't heard much from IB schools today, but in some other work I've done with LDC, there have been some teams at IB schools. So there may be stuff on the LDC website that would also be of interest to you and your colleagues, and they may be really interested in the work you do too, because I think you're right, like layering these ways of looking at what we want from students, the Common Core, your IB standards, in some places for science teachers, the next generation science standards on top of that, the new history framework. Sometimes they really do push in the same general direction of high standards and kids being able to produce evidence of their thinking, but the language and the way that they talk about them are can be hard to like put them all together. So it's nice to hear that this felt like something that you could use in that conversation.
I guess my final question is for everybody there. What would you like to see? Where would you like to see this work go from this point on? What would be helpful for you going forward?
Personally, or within our schools, or?
I think you can interpret the question however. What would help you personally going forward? If you have thoughts about what would help your school, your colleagues, or whatever going forward.
I think the fact that we have 4 teachers from our middle and high school, 5 teachers here from our middle and high school, we can speak a common language when we're meeting together to write lesson plans or to create assignments and help hold each other accountable or question or just support one another in creating assignments that really ask our students to do what it is that we're find it.
So I think in that we have a unique situation where there is a large contingency from one school, and so I think there's that question: what if there were contingencies or groups within each school that knew these things, and instead of just one person or even two people, but what if this was the common language across the department? And I think a question arises is, what can we, what will we do, and then how can the writing project support that development with these teachers who are passionate, who see something that's clear and they are excited to share with their colleagues. How can we help support them in that? And maybe the teachers here are asking, how will the writing project support us in that with follow-up? Anyone else?
So I teach digital media, filmmaking, photography, graphic design, and such, as well as English. And I think this is for me going forward. I'm probably going to bring this over. Not even probably. I know I'm going to bring this over into creating better prompts and better assignments for students to create digital media. I see the immediate applicability. The lingo has to change. In terms of it's not a writing output, it's something else. But the process of creating that prompt, I think, will work very well. So that's how I'm going to move forward, as well as applying it to English, the writing.
And the templates really allow for you to make those changes. It doesn't have to be an essay. It can be a video. It can be any number of different things.
But I would add, I'm just really excited about that because, at the writing project, even though our name is Writing Project, we are really trying to crack and push open this idea of composition as it really broadly defined, and really thinking about kids' productive capacities and ability to take their thoughts and their new learning and make something with it. It feels like they own it or it's important to them. And I totally agree that these tools are great for crafting prompts or helping imagine how to move that learning into any kind of outcome. But at the same time, we haven't seen a lot of examples, so it's so exciting to me to hear you thinking about that, and maybe we will see some examples of prompts and then your student work, and that would be a great addition to the national conversation about composition and supporting student learning. So
yeah, I feel like everything I do at the school, in English or in media, is always about communication. That's my main purpose, is to help communicate. So I'd be happy to bear along what I'm doing in media.
Good. We'll be following you in the G+ community or wherever, all of you. But I have several sort of irons in the fire, but that's one of mine, and I'm really excited to hear about that.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
That was great to hear. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And where do you want to go next?
Me?
Yeah, do you
Me? I was hoping, I think that someone could speak a little bit about the LDC. Really, my own experience is mostly limited to the template tasks, but just wondering what else is there. I know that you have all been involved for much longer in these elements of the LDC, so maybe if you could just explain what it is a bit more articulately than I was able to, that might be beneficial to everyone here, just so they can go and know what to look for if they're interested.
Since you asked for articulate, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah.
I'll do my best. The Literacy Design Collaborative, I will say Tanya can speak probably a little bit more to, its inception and how it kind of got off the ground with, it was originally funded through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But I think some important things to keep in mind about the Literacy Design Collaborative is that I've been involved with it since about 2011, and it's continually evolving. I like to think of it as a way to engage in the work that you are all beginning today with thinking about tasks, and specifically the way the tasks are written is for students to write in response to texts, text-dependent writing. And that's one of the ways that I've kind of wrapped my head around it as well. There are numerous tools on the Literacy Design Collaborative website that I would encourage you to start digging around in. Kind of a next step after writing a task is to build out what the Literacy Design Collaborative calls a module. And this includes the instructional plan and what we call in Literacy Design Collaborative language mini tasks, in terms of what are the tasks in my instruction that are going to get students to produce the writing or whatever the outcome is, the assignment outcome for the particular task. So as Tobin was giving us the great example that he's going to bring this to digital media, the task doesn't always have to look like, an essay. There's lots of different options and possibilities for these tasks. But then you can use the Literacy Design Collaborative core tools. Everything's online in this collaborative space, kind of like a Google Drive type of space where you can build a module and use a lot of the different resources that the mini task library that the LDC has built up over the last couple of years. And you can add student work to the module as well. And I think one of the really valuable aspects of Literacy Design Collaborative is that it's teachers from all disciplines, not just English language arts teachers, but teachers in science and social studies and math and electives classes, whatever, coming together to share in this module creation. And ultimately, what you have the opportunity to do is build out a module and submit it for national jurying, which is a very, it can be a little bit of an intimidating process because you're putting your work out there for this national audience to jury, and jury can also be a little bit of a intimidating word. But I've been part of national jurying for about a year now, and it's incredible professional development, not only for individuals who submit their modules for jurying, but also people who engage in the jurying. You'll be given a set of modules to read individually and to score using the jurying rubric, and then you collaborate with someone across the country to come to consensus and then provide really meaningful feedback on the module, which includes the task. The task is just one part of this bigger module. And it's definitely helped me become more reflective about my instruction and teaching as a whole. That's a little bit about Literacy Design Collaborative. I would like to be intentionally redundant in saying that it is continually evolving. It's changed a lot even since, or I think for the better, it's improved in the time that I have worked with Literacy Design Collaborative. But it has so much power to help teachers in all disciplines. Just as one little aside, I've, through some National Writing Project seed grant funding, I've been able to bring Literacy Design Collaborative professional development, a year-long study of Literacy Design Collaborative and disciplinary literacies to my building. So I would say that for all of you, you are at the tip of the iceberg in this work, and if it's something that you, which it sounds like you definitely want to pursue and engage in, then the website is a great starting place, as well as our Google Plus community for deepening this work.
Any questions?
I have to say I'm a fairly harsh critic of rubrics, but one of the nice things about LDC is some of their rubrics are very useful. And the jurying rubric is a really good one to look at and to think about in even judging your own work and and using it to think about some of the things you might have done today.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about LDC? No questions. You did a wonderful job explaining that, Sarah.
Thank you.
Great. I think our next, we had Joe for peer revision, and I had said I wasn't sure that we'd need that section, and I don't think we have much to discuss there. But that leads to Tanya, and those really difficult questions I thought we might have. So are you ready for some potentially difficult questions?
Okay, I'm ready.
Does anyone have any potentially difficult questions? Do you want to talk about your prompts, Millie? Do you want to explain it, or?
How crappy they are to me?
No. Your idea. So we have a really wonderful thing going on. One of our teachers, she teaches AP students and upper level sophomores, and the template tools will sometimes have you begin with an essential question, and then based upon that essential question, you obviously build your task through that. And one of the things she engages with her students is having them develop their own essential questions, and then lead to their own analysis or essay or product. And so a recent, do you want to come explain this, or?
You're doing great.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say something wrong to intentionally get you to come up and correct me. No. So a really fascinating conversation. So she took that idea of having them design their own essential question and write an essay, and she took the tasks she had given them, and she was looking at them and seeing how does this work with the template task when what they're doing is developing their own essential question, and how each essential question might lead a student in a different direction. And it got kind of hairy, but there were some really cool things that happened. This isn't a question yet, but I guess the question is, for Tanya, this is the difficult question.
Okay. Ready.
What happens maybe, are there times that you've run into where the template tasks, maybe they reach their peak or something? Because to have the students start creating the essential question, kind of starts to put them in the role that we're doing today, and deciding what is my question and what's the outcome. What do I have to do to reach the outcome of answering it? And have you worked with teachers or heard of teachers who are kind of doing that, where instead of creating and giving the essential question, they're leading their students through sort of their own exploration of that?
Yeah. So this is a great, difficult question, and I'm going to start, but I would invite Sarah or Joe to add or even contradict me, add to, argue with, whatever. But this is one thing that sort of that some people have come up in different writing curriculum or different writing frameworks that were much more focused on students sort of building an individual portfolio of work, have a really hard time using the template tasks because they are at the place, I'm sorry, what, Millie, right?
Yes.
That Millie's at, where they want students asking their own questions, or students having a range of questions to answer, and so therefore creating a single task for the whole class, everybody's going to do the same thing, doesn't a really good fit. So there are a couple of things that I think are really important about that. One, I'm going to back up and I'm going to say a thing that isn't a direct answer to Millie's question, but that I keep trying to fit in everywhere, which is that when I started with LDC, I actually thought spending a lot of time thinking about the tasks was dumb, and I'm embarrassed. I am totally embarrassed to say that, but even though I had 12 years of teaching experience, I don't know. I guess I just thought I was brilliant. Like, of course, everybody can write tasks for kids. And then we spent some time with the project teachers and realized, oh, this is harder than I think, but these people are so smart and they like work it out and they figure it out. So I was still sort of in this place where I thought, oh, anybody can write a good question. Maybe they need a little help from their brilliant writing project colleagues, but anybody can still do it. And then, like Sarah, I've been trained to be a national and I've done several jurying opportunities, which have given me access to hundreds of prompts and the student work that comes from them, and also the modules that teachers use to teach tasks, which is really a helpful piece of evidence. So for me, what I suddenly saw that I hadn't been able to see before, I've put all of my eggs sort of in the teaching basket, the pedagogy basket. Like, if teachers learn how to teach kids how to do something, then their kids will be successful. And what I suddenly saw evidence of over and over again was teachers who I mean, I wasn't in their classroom, but I saw what they said they had kids do and what they planned to have kids do, and it was really smart. And then I looked at the student work that came from it, and the student work wasn't that good. And then I looked at the question, and I said, the question in some way limited kids' success. It was confusing. It asked them to do too many things at once. It really asked them for an argument, but there's not really anything to argue about here. There are a lot of ways to begin to understand the ways that questions could go wrong. So, all that is to say, I am now convinced more care is really important, and more collaboration and more thinking about tasks really take the glass ceiling off your teaching. So, oh, you're doing this great teaching, and then kids have this great question to answer, and then those things combined allow kids to be really successful. So, now going back to Millie's question, can the kids develop their own questions? Absolutely, but they need help not only answering the question that they come up with, but they often need a lot of help, pedagogical support, and practice and tools for thinking about, is my question a good one? Is it answerable? Is it limiting the way I can think about the information that's in front of me? And so I think that we don't have a ton of experience of this, but we've seen a few people who have taken their own training in thinking about the questions. They've taken a template task to say, you know, are you really wanting to like share information about your topic, or do you really want to make an argument to people? Are you really going to compare two things, or are you going to do a different kind of analysis? And the framework that the tasks are written around help teachers to do that, but then a teacher who's really conversant in that can give those tools over to kids to help them hone their questions, so they're asking good questions that they can then answer with like some confidence and competence. So I think all these tools, even in that situation that Millie's in, where kids are asking essential questions and then posing sort of a sub-question or some part of that question that they're going to answer, these tools can be really helpful either in the hands of kids or modified for kids, or some parts used for kids to help them think about their own questions too. Very long-winded answer from me, sorry.
That was everything I could have hoped for and more. That was awesome.
And more. That's the problem when I start talking. It's the and more.
No, it was good. I'm glad you got in that experience about your journey. I'm glad you found a way to get it in. So, any questions related to that or not related to that?
Well, I wanted to say that I think that, you know, if you're preparing kids, they're at the AP level and they're heading on to college soon, this idea of moving the questioning to them and helping them learn how to form these essential questions, you know, it's the right spot for it. It's the time. They're going to have to take that skill on to college with them anyway. So I think using these tools and helping them to begin to internalize what you know, we start to give them earlier, you're at the right spot for it.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a couple of questions. Yay!
Hard questions?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's about to come your way. So.
Right.
I'd like to hear you all talk a little more about how these assignments fit into a larger, I guess, writing curriculum, and how what role, like writing for authentic audiences and purposes, these assignments play in that curriculum? That's my question.
Did you guys catch that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Did you get it, Joe and Sarah?
I don't think I heard all of it. I'm sorry.
So it's a way, like, how are these tools situated in your thinking about the larger writing curriculum? And
Okay.
as an example, what about writing for authentic audiences and purposes?
Mm-hmm.
Does either of you want to start?
So this has come up a couple of other times today as well, and I can't imagine just having assignment after assignment after assignment after assignment, all in the form of template tasks. I think that my students, they would completely shut down and not like me at all. And of course, a lot of our work is making our classrooms every day relevant and engaging and meaningful to what students are experiencing in their lives. And but also, of course, with holding students to high expectations and preparing them for their futures. So I can't. In conversations I've had with Literacy Design Collaborative, they talk about this whole idea of the task or the module as being, it could range anywhere from a few days to a week to a couple of weeks, depending on what the actual assignment is asking students to do and the teaching that needs to go into producing that assignment. They don't talk about assignments or modules as units. However, this is where I'm a little bit fuzzy in some of the Literacy Design Collaborative definitions, because at one point in a conversation I was having with them in August, they said, well, eventually we need to be creating module units. And so I'm like, oh goodness. And I didn't even go further because I'm like, I can't even comprehend right now what a module unit is. So I would say that, for me personally, a goal that I have is that I am providing students with opportunities to write, with these kinds of tasks, 2 or 3 times a semester, roughly, and maybe even like some shorter term ones or like shorter time frame, a few other times throughout the semester. Additionally, I really appreciate the question about authentic audiences and purposes, because in my experience, that's where we get the most amazing work from students, very high quality writing. And so I think that one of the I guess I'm trying to think of a word that's not too harsh here, but one of the struggles that I've had a little bit with the tasks over the last several years is, like you've all alluded to today, is that you might be a little bit hesitant or reluctant to use something that seems a little bit confining, and a lot of the tasks seem very traditional in write an essay about blah 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 blah, and so I would encourage you to maybe stretch yourself and to incorporate more authentic writing, modes of writing, genres of writing, I guess not modes, but genres of writing and audiences into those tasks. I'm kind of rambling, so I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Okay, whether he wants to or not.
Or Tanya.
One of the things that excite me about these template tasks is that I see in them a kind of microcosm of how I plan a unit, how I plan a year. I'm always asking myself, what is my essential question? What is it I'm asking? What am I going to read that is going to help inform my answer? What am I going to have people do with what they're reading? What activity? Are they going to write an essay? Are they going to make a film? Are they going to do a presentation? What form is the action going to take? What is it all going to be about? All of these things are in each one of those tasks, and you can look at one of those tasks and begin to blow it up bigger and bigger as you look at your year. At least that's the way I think about it.
And
Tanya?
I'm going to offer the opportunity to think about them in the opposite way too. And I am a very, very, very late blooming athlete, which is to say I've never been an athlete my whole life. And 2 years ago, I decided I was going to learn to run a triathlon. And I have to say that I probably could have, but it would not have been very good for me to just go run a triathlon to learn how to do it. And I know there are people who think about instruction that way, like kids just need a lot of practice doing the thing they're going to do. And I know there are other people who think about instruction like they don't get to do the thing until they've learned all the parts of the thing. So there's also sort of the far other end of instruction where kids will get a lot of worksheets. They have to learn how to spell words, and then they have to learn how to write sentences. And only when they write complete sentences do they get to write paragraphs. And so there's a sort of way opposite end of instruction, which is kind of this building block. You have to have all the parts in order to be able to do the thing. And I actually think I really think about instruction in a kind of blended, almost right in the middle way, where kids really need opportunities that excite them to play the game. In this case, in the writing game, it's writing something they really care about for an audience who's not just their teacher, but somebody who they could convince or inform or move with their writing. But they want, because they care so much about that writing, they want to be as successful as they can at that. And sometimes to get successful at that, they need some help isolating the intellectual challenges of the work and understanding what are some tools they could use to do those things better, and how can they learn to do the parts better. So when I started running a triathlon, I joined a triathlon club, and I'd sit in a room, it was very intimidating, with a bunch of very much younger people than me mostly, and say, what could I do and what couldn't I do? I said, I think I can swim the distance, I'm sure I can bike the distance, but I am the worst runner, I can't run. And I happened to be in a group with this two amazing running coaches. And that was 2 years ago, and now I run more than I swim or bike. And when I started, I really literally could not finish a 5K race. I actually couldn't run a mile at the time when I started. And I have friends right now trying to move me to run a half marathon. I'm not there yet, but I ran a 15K 2 weeks ago. And there were moments in that race, that was my ionic task for my own purpose. There were moments in that race that was 9.3 miles that I thought, actually, I can't do this. And then I would remember something like, stand up straighter. And like this coach who would say, there's a light and it's emanating right from your belly. You got to like stand up straight and like go forward, And so I would be like kind of slumping over, like I'm going to die. And then I would remember this help. So for me, the tasks and the templates give me a chance to say, we're going to practice an authentically difficult intellectual challenge, and I'm going to isolate some part of that, which might be about how really do I get the evidence for comparison contrast essay, or how do I read in order to analyze the motive of a character or something. And the template task give me a chance to isolate what's hard here and how am I going to teach kids to do it, and then for them to practice, not in a fake way, but in the same way if you're going to play on the basketball team, you go play some games, but you do a lot of practices in between where you see, oh, in that last game I kind of struggled with this. I'm going to get better at it by doing layup drills or running sprints or whatever. So I feel like in my experience of learning how to do something, and triathlons are not my only experience of learning how to do something. I used to have an advisor, I don't know if any of you have ever read Jeff Wilhelm, but he used to say, from cooking to kissing, is there anything you do that you care about that you were good the first time you did it? Gotta practice. And so I feel like kids need the combination of real, authentic tasks and opportunities and to practice in support of a mentor, a a more experienced adult who knows how to help them isolate the parts that are hard and practice them. So, again, long-winded. You should ask me easier questions.
I'm going to say one more thing as well, and I think Tanya's explanation was beautiful, and I appreciate the analogy to that as well that you provided. Something that has stuck with me in the Literacy Design Collaborative work is that one of the intentions behind these tasks is to help move students to independence when they are given these types of tasks. And as much as, I mean, this is another, of course, conversation that we could have for hours, but the reality of our situations is that in most of our teaching situations, our students are given high-stakes tests. And as much as I don't want my daily work to be about that, and I don't make my daily work about that every single day, I also know that it is a reality of education. And so I think that using the tasks, it is a way that we can help prepare students for you know, how they might be assessed as well. And I, like I said, I struggle saying that because it shouldn't be, that shouldn't be the reason that we're doing this. It's just kind of a little, I like that idea of being able to move students to independence. So without the teacher's support.
Any other questions?
Question, maybe comment. I don't know. It takes me a while to soak all this in, but about authentic tasks, and she makes a good point about they have to be able to take tests, but they have to be able to do real life. And about Tobin was saying about the type of tasks. What about conversations about the type of product that we're asking them to do? If there are some that are better suited with some tasks, if there are conversations about that going on. We thought it was a no-brainer that we could write a writing task or an assignment for our students. We're finding that, yeah, there were gaps. Well, maybe there were gaps on how we asked them to demonstrate their learning, and thinking about that, especially with technology and what's expected in, you know, testing in real world, if that's some conversation that might be forthcoming, or if it's something we should maybe address here at SWP, just kind of throwing out ideas. I don't know.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Long-winded.
So I'm going to try to give a short answer this time, and I'll let Sarah and Joe see if they want to add to it, or you to ask a follow-up question. But I think particularly we have to stop thinking. It's very hard in education. We're so isolated in our rooms, and we're so really overburdened by the number of students and the number of hours of actual instruction compared to time to prep and land. But this question is less a question for an individual teacher and more, as you are saying, for systems, right? So it's no good, I think. I mean, it's great. It's better than no writing practice, but it's still problematic if in sixth grade, to write comparison contrast essays in every class for every module. They do all the same thing, but they've never done some other kind of essay, right? So there are systems that are using LDC as a tool and using that framework of the task templates, which you may only have, I can't remember what we gave you, but at some place you can find it at LDC, or we could send it to you, but there's a framework that kind of says these questions are most conducive to social studies or science kinds of questions, and these these are this kind of analysis, these are that kind of analysis. Here are the 10 argument templates, but they're really built around sort of 5 structures of argument. So those are great tools to use as a team to say, when we look across a year and then across 4 years, say, or 6, or however your teams work, what experiences do we want kids to have as writers over time, and how can we build those so that they provide a kind of uber scaffold for our kids' writing experience during the time they're in the school. So there are examples of schools and districts doing that, and I think it's powerful.
We have about 10 or so more minutes.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could have some feedback. Two very brave teachers, Paula and Tobin, asked if you guys wouldn't mind looking at some of the things they've created and just seeing what questions you might have, what conversations, what observations you might make. So I believe we sent those to Sarah, and Sarah, you said you forwarded them both to Tanya and Joe. Awesome. Do you want me to call those teachers up so they can, sit here and we can all listen to you talk about what they've made? Yeah? Yeah. Do you want to talk about Paula or Tobin's first? Tobin's is the first one.
We can go in order. That's fine.
Sure. Tobin, you'll be first. He's so excited to sit in front of the camera again.
All right, lay it on me.
Sarah, do you want to? I mean, you don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I would say I'm looking on two screens here. One of the things that struck me most, and I guess I would just maybe ask you to talk about this for a moment, was you shared the original prompt and then also your revision. And you've talked a little bit about how you're using the assignment kind of template to think through some of the work today. But I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what kind of led you to some of the revisions that you made between the original task and the revised task.
Sure. Let me go grab my copy.
Okay.
You don't remember it all off the top of your head? I'm kidding.
Okay. So one of the main issues is because I had already given the initial prompt, which for those in there, the initial prompt was when Romeo and Juliet, tragedy befalls the young couple. Think about the main cause of their demise, and then write an argument in a paragraph below using specific examples from the text. This was given during a midterm exam, and one of the main problems that occurred was students did not know the word demise, and so I had to explain it to them. And then also in revising it, what I really think is an issue of concern is that I am looking for them to speak about what I know from at least Aristotle's definition of causes as being sort of the final or the telos or the ultimate cause. And yet, I think for ninth graders, it's a little difficult for them to transition from an intermediate cause, which to me, as I was explaining to Millie, was the knife going into their chest and then bleeding out. That was the intermediate cause of their death. But I'm actually looking for the ultimate cause. And so finding words that would help the students understand what kind of answer I'm looking for, I think, has been my concern. But what I added to it, I think, was just a much more clear laying out of everything else, like the idea that I want a thesis statement and at least 3 pieces of evidence. And I think rewriting it through the template format not only makes sure that what I'm asking for is what I wanted to assess them on, but also just gives me the words that will better get the intended goal from the student.
Thank you. That's helpful. And so I just think in reading the revised task, it absolutely makes, I think it's more clear for the students. And I think that I would hope that you would get maybe more of what you intended in terms of the student work product. One of the things I always do is I go to the jurying rubric. Do any of you have access to that jurying rubric yet?
We didn't the actual jurying rubric. I didn't pull that out yet. I can put it in their folder and pull it up real quick if you want me to.
Oh, it's not
I have it right here.
Oh, he has it.
Yeah, okay. I would just say that I think that that's a really great place to begin when you are looking at tasks. And it's just the very first area of the rubric.
30
here. Template tasks uses a writing mode that matches the intended purpose of the prompt. And here you're asking the students to create an argument. So I would say that absolutely makes sense. One of the things I always ask myself as well is the task biased? Is it going to lead the students to a particular response? And in this task you say, write a paragraph in which you argue the overarching reason that they died, and before that it says, the immediate reason that they died is because they stabbed themselves to death. One can argue many other ultimate reasons for why they met their demise. So you're giving them the opening or the option, like there's many other. So I really like in this task, and I probably shouldn't say that I like, but I do. I like the fact that there's a lot of different options for students. And so as long as they are supporting that with evidence from the text, then they're doing their job and they're thinking, which is fantastic. I'm going to let Joe or Tanya chime in.
One of the things, I like that part where you say, how they physically died, so it kind of heads off the problem of a student, saying, well, that's how they died. I would quibble and say that Romeo drank poison. It was only Juliet that stabbed herself, but that's just a quibble.
Right.
I like, the way it's set up. I think the students can't miss what you're looking for.
Okay.
So I would also argue I don't know your students and I don't know I don't know where they are or when in the year they get this, but I think this is for the reasons particularly that Sarah and Joe have already laid out, I think it's a good task, and I think kids can probably over time both write more than a paragraph to this question, and have the opportunity. I think this is a really good question, and there aren't always really good questions for this, to practice rebuttal of other possible answers. This feels like a question where kids could really learn to say, some people might argue blah, 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 but the reason, what is really the underlying cause is this, and to make their reasoning sound. It's the kind of question where they can, I think, there's potential for kids to really practice making their reasoning visible, which I think is the thing they struggle the most with. So this is both great in its current state and has great potential to be extended.
So not to complicate things, but I did actually, with the original prompt, get very good responses to it. Once they understood the cause of the demise, that word, several of them talked about Friar, several of them talked about love itself was the main cause. The timing of the letter was the main cause. So, yeah, I still got good responses, but I also was only asking for a paragraph, and it was in a timed, we had just finished reading it, so it was in a timed experience, and they were very fresh. But I definitely like my improvement. So.
Nice.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing it with us.
You're welcome, Sylvan. Paula, it's your turn.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Paula, right?
Yes.
Nice to meet you. It's going great. I'm rereading your prompt.
Yes. So I'm coming at this from a little different viewpoint. I teach life science, but there's obviously the students have to do some writing, and I wanted to improve on the quality of their writing. And this is a project that we're working on right now. And this is a kind of a piece of a larger project.
Do you want to give us a one-sentence description of the larger project, too?
Well, did you send the top part, the background?
Oh, you did send it.
Oh, okay.
I right over it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's so cool. I shouldn't jump over stuff. Well, I want to say one thing before my colleagues jump in, and that is that in the world that we're living in currently, I see a lot of focus on argument writing and a kind of skip over or less interest in information writing. And I think this is, as I understand it, a very nice informational prompt with a really clear purpose, particularly embedded in this larger project, of why it's really important both to understand and be able to communicate the information about on this topic. So those are some things that I think are really powerful about this.
And I love that we have a science example as well. That's fantastic. Well, I just think this, I mean, as a student, I think that it sounds really interesting and engaging. I love the, our students, they're assigned a specific tree. Is that correct?
A specific species, yes, that they have to do the research on.
Okay, all right. I guess one question that I have, I love the idea of a poster or a presentation of the tree species, and I'm only giving this feedback because I'm thinking about my students in general. Would our students given like specific resources to use for the research, or is it just kind of like they just go out and they find the resources completely on their own?
So all the research they're doing about the trees is just from the laptops from the internet that they have, and they were told to use reliable sources. That they could start with Wikipedia, but then they needed to move into .gov or .edu type sites.
Okay, so they are given some guidance. So that would be, one thing that I don't know. I know that this is helpful for my students. Is sometimes if I give them like a starting place and say, okay, I need everyone to use like this particular, scientific website, and this is more maybe in the instructional plan, not the task, I guess. But so pardon me for that. But it's just where what I started thinking about when I was reading this. That to have those conversations about what is a credible internet research website, but to say, okay, we're all using these one or two, and then you need to find your own. I don't know. That's just an idea, but I think that this sounds exciting. And another idea I thought about for a product, I love the idea of a poster or presentation, but also maybe an infographic. There are some great resources that you can use for students to create infographics on the internet as well.
Oh, I like that idea. One thing Ben brought up is that I should look up the writing standards for that age group, which I hadn't thought of. I'm always looking at the science standards, but I'm not looking at the writing standards. So that was kind of a neat way to look at this as well. What it should be expected of them at this age group.
And do you have the next? Is Nevada taking up the next generation science standards?
We're at a private school, so we kind of set our own. But generally speaking, yes, we're kind of moving towards that way. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm really excited about the next generation science standards because they put like information, writing an explanation and writing an argument as a scientific, they can name those scientific processes. And so they're really, part of the new science curriculum and not sort of learn science and then write about it, but here's how we write in science for purposes. And that is and writing itself is a scientific process. So I think there's a lot of potential alignment with those standards as well.
Great.
I think one of the strongest parts is that D8, where you're very specific and help them really know what kind of information they're going to be presenting in this poster.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well,
Ben,
that was our agenda.
It's been so lovely to spend an hour with you all.
It has been. Thank you so much for your time, your thoughts, your feedback, and your expertise.
Thank you all for all your work and your thoughts and your expertise. Fantastic to have you in our community.
We're thankful, so have a good rest of your day, okay?
You too.
You too.
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Bye, everybody.
Shoveling.
Alexina, we're going to stop recording.